You're listening to Ragna-Rock on 103.5 The Sun Community Radio, coming to you from the 103.5 The Sun Studios, underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. I'm your host, Graham. I play all sorts of metal and rock, and that last song you heard was Rise by Monolith, who we have in the studio with us today. So if y'all want to go around and introduce yourselves, go for it.
Sure. What's up, everybody? My name is Dylan. I am the bass player for Monolith.
And I am Andrew, or Andy, and I am the lead guitarist and one of the backing vocalists.
I am Connor, and I am the drummer.
All right, cool. So, if you could just run me through about when did the band start and how did y'all meet and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so the band started in, I want to say around September or October of 2019. So I just started my freshman year at Madison. It took about maybe 2 weeks to get my bearings at, the school, university, get stuff figured out. And then I was like, all right, I need someone that I can play music with. So I went to one of the print shops. I think it was in the first floor of the dorm that I was living in. And I just printed off a flyer that said bass player looking to jam. And I listed off a couple of the bands that I liked, some of my influences, and I put those flyers everywhere. They were all over the UW campus. They were all over downtown, State Street, stuff like that. And I just put like little tag pieces at the bottom for my information. Like, if someone bites, if someone's interested, they'll contact me. Otherwise, I'll just figure it out from there. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, maybe like 2 weeks later, if even, I think I get an email from a certain Andrew Shea. And he said that he was interested in jamming with me. And I was like, all right, sure, this guy's got similar interests and influences as me. And so we started talking back and forth, and at one point it came up, he was like, hey, I'm 32. Is that a big issue? And I was like, oh, all right. No, not really, because I was 18 at the time. And I was like, as long as we like the same music, like, we ball. It's going to work out fine.
Right.
And so we got together, started jamming. I watched him play, and I was like, this is a guy who knows his instrument better than I think anybody else I've played with. So I'm going to stick around. I'm going to see what this dusty old man's got to offer. And 4 years later, here we are.
Yeah, I sent him. At the time I wasn't in a band. I had a one-man power metal project called Andronimus.
Oh, nice!
And I sent him the videos, which they're just absurd. I'm wearing like a mullet wig and like dancing around in the woods, and he's like, "These are really weird, but the music is good."
Nice.
Yeah, and it's actually quite funny because we got together. He showed me some of the stuff from one of the bands they had when he lived out in Seattle. We started learning the music, and we were like, "Okay, we've got these guitar and bass parts pretty much down." And we turned to each other and we were like, we need a drummer. We need to find someone who's able to play some metal drums. And pretty much falling out of the sky comes Connor, who had just moved recently from, I think, Bethesda, Maryland.
Pretty much. I was in D.C. for many years. After one job came to a conclusion, I figured move to the area my dad was from, Madison, Wisconsin. Ended up working for the university, coincidentally in the same department as Andy. And one day we were just working, and I noticed he had some kind of metal shirt or something on. Hey, do you happen to listen to metal? Oh, yeah, I'm a guitarist. Oh, I play drums. And he had this kind of look like, oh, do you?
Beautiful.
Okay. What kind? And I happened to have recorded a video a couple days earlier just for the internet, and I showed him. And I think pretty much the next thing was like, so are you busy in the next couple of days? Can you come jam? And they seemed happy with the styles and influences I had in just when we were just jamming. And I'm pretty sure that first jam we had a couple, in addition to just working on the stuff that was from his previous band, we had a couple just jams that felt really natural. And we decided, let's see how this goes. And we kind of continued from there. I think that was around September of... What would that have been?
It would have been December of 2019 is when you first started getting in cahoots with us.
Out there,
So beginning of 2020 was when the three of us sort of coalesced into what this would become.
Okay.
Yeah, and just since they're not here at the moment, we then did that for many months, decided we needed basically a vocalist, since though we had some vocals from the string section here, they wanted to focus on, since we wanted to do faster, more intricate stuff, we went and found Ryan, who, as you may have noticed, was not introduced earlier. He is unfortunately unable to join us today, but we met him. He was performing some gig dressed in pigtails and choker, just having a good old time.
We set up an impression, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That, and that he had a very powerful stage presence
Yeah.
on vocals. We asked him after the gig, unashamedly, hey, nice job with that band. Come and try to play with us. And he's still with them also. He's dual projecting it, but he's been with us since shortly after that. And
Almost exactly a year ago.
pretty much at this point, yeah. And pretty much that's how we all kind of got involved.
All right, cool. So how would you describe Monolith's music and style?
Everywhere. If we were to sum it up into a word, it would be everywhere. Yeah, we all have a lot of really different influences, I would say. I myself, a lot of the stuff that I grew up listening to was like a lot of like old school thrash metal, like the Big Four Bay Area thrash scene. I didn't really get into death metal until actually I met up with Andy, and then he showed me stuff like Death. He showed me Opeth, which is kind of like my bread and butter right now.
For sure.
So yeah, I really like to combine like a sense of brutality, just like relentless onslaught, like a lot of Testaments, like mid '90s music, like their thrash, their death metal, just that same sort of intensity, but with some of the more thoughtful, melancholic aspects, like a lot of Opeth's writing on some of Chuck Schuldiner from Death, some of his a little more laid back work, not necessarily Leprosy, but like more of his later efforts. So I like to be able to have music that people can, within about 45 seconds, they can either headbang to, or they can sit back and like cry, just lamenting over the chords that we're playing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not 50-50 me and Dylan on the songwriting, but it's at this point it's me, Dylan, and Ryan. Mostly, I mean, Connor obviously has input as well, but everybody pretty much contributes to the songwriting.
Yeah.
I was always into melodic death metal, like the Swedish stuff.
Oh yeah,
At the
for sure.
Gates, In Flames, Children of Bodom, that kind of thing from the 90s.
you're a big fan of Deep Purple, aren't you?
Oh yeah,
Oh, Deep Purple's awesome.
Deep
Yes,
Purple
they
is
are.
awesome.
They're fantastic, aren't they?
His bat signal is Smoke on the Water, so
It's a controversial song in the band.
but
Played
yeah,
anywhere
like
and
the stuff Dylan writes, you can hear a lot more thrash influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you get to know us, you'll be able to. Oh, yeah, Dylan wrote that one. It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
And then I like the more beautiful, melodic, happy stuff.
More power metal-y
More
kind of
little-
stuff.
yeah, definitely more
Yeah.
power metal-y.
That-
I listen to a lot of power metal too, and Connor roadblocks me on some of it because he doesn't want it to be too rainbows and ponies.
Nowadays, we go a bit more even with everything. In the beginning,
Yeah.
I thought we were kind of trying to aim for a certain sound, and I realized, oh, that's just completely out the window. Never mind, we'll get a bit of everything. But yeah, generally, that's the process. In terms of influences, I listen to effectively everything from Metallica, Judas Priest, all that remains. A lot of that early kind of metalcore period, Avenged Sevenfold, things of that nature. But at the same time, I drum to anything and everything from Dire Straits, Dave Matthews Band, just whatever I can get my hands on that is intricate, I want to be able to do, and that kind of shows through in the, as I understand it, non-traditional way I do some approaches to some of my beats. In terms of the writing, I'd say definitely, the most common is one of the boys here will have some generic riff or some interesting little progression they're doing while we're waiting for something else to happen in the recording. And I'll stop them at one point and say, wait a second, please do that one more time. Just keep looping that, and I'll toss some beat in there, and we'll kind of just jam off of that for 10, 15 minutes, and then we go, oh, okay, well, that was actually most of a song. I guess we'll go off of that. But yeah, generally, we all kind of trust each other in terms of our inputs. Dylan does often do riffs as well.
Yeah.
Like anything he writes with bass, almost exclusively will say that is pretty much near perfection what we would have gone. Same with Andy and Ryan in terms of vocals and lead guitar. And generally, what I bring with the drums tends to pretty much go through as it is.
All right, nice. So currently you have 2 singles out. So if you guys want to talk about those, like, just like the general idea behind them, lyrical themes, writing process for those.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as far as the lyrical themes, there's not a whole lot that can be said, given that the main lyricist and actual lyric writer is not currently present.
Right.
But everything else outside of that, we can definitely talk about a little bit more. So Rise was the first single that we released. And that was a riff that I had been sitting on since I was probably about 17 or 18 years old, that main riff that plays during the verse. I kind of, it was a bit egotistical of me at the time, but I wanted it to be like my Iron Man riff, just the sound of just this big, mean, just constantly just plodding riff, just one note after the other, just, just real muscly.
Yep.
And that was really the vibe that I was trying to go for. And then once Andy came in with his harmonies, doing like the fifth over it, and then the major third, that ended up being on the recording, and then Connor's drums really accentuating that.
Yeah.
We were like, all right, yeah, this is gonna be what's up. This is definitely how we want to. It was just like a good attack. And then the chorus, because Andy and I for sure, as far as guitar writing, we like a lot more melodic aspects to it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mix it up a little bit so it wasn't just, constantly relentless beat down after beat down after beat down. So that's when we got into more of like a melodeath, power metal, more, I would honestly say, traditional heavy metal aspect with the chord progressions and just how that sort of flows. And yeah, it's like a 3-minute song. I think Ryan once called it a feeder and deleter because it pretty much it just starts, it goes, and then it ends. So it was really a song that was exactly what it needed to be. There's no bells and whistles to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That pretty much sums it up. Dylan comes up with a lot of the skeletal structures of the songs, then I'll start putting little intricate lines over it and harmonies and kind of just embellish based on what
you
he
add the
does.
meat in the tissue, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of been our songwriting process recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Just that someone comes in with either a beat or just a simple riff or even just a little trill that they thought would be like a cool thing on top, and generally it's kind of just adding on from there and building off of that skeleton, as you said, is the most common. At least for Rise, pretty much that, just fast, unrelenting. But then for the chorus, instead of just continuing with the fast double bass, trying to make it kind of more, wide
Yeah,
sonically.
just open it up a little.
Yeah, so I added in, you can hear like the hi-hat pops in here and there off to the side, just kind of working around the kit to kind of bring the sound out of just that center bit.
Yeah.
And pretty much summed it up. Rise is just go, get it done, heavy and hard, and done.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
And then the second one we have, Synthetic Misery. That was a song that I wrote, I think in 2018. It was originally used for my project out in Seattle, which was called Resistor.
Oh, yeah.
And we sort of took we built this band out of the ashes of that band. Basically, that's how we got our start. Just because I had a handful of really good songs that we just started using those.
Yeah.
And that one is pretty much just at the gates, old in flames, just really fast.
Oh, yeah.
Picking and harmonies, just simple little leads, melodic, diatonic thirds. It's also very straightforward, but just blazing fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is definitely, in terms of drums, the fastest that's going to be on this record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
It's a fun one.
It is
Yeah,
fun.
very cool. Yeah, that one I can definitely hear like at the gates kind of thing going on with it. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I would say there's nothing in it that's necessarily like overly complex. Like it's not like Lorna Shore, it's not Polyphia. Like we're not like technical wankery, but it's like a lot of really nice layers of a cake. Like it's just like we got one nice harmony that's just layered on top of another and another, and it just creates just such, especially during like the interlude, the middle section, and then the outro of the song, they just create such a beautiful sonic landscape with all these harmonies going on over each other, because you have a relentless drumming that's going on underneath. You have the bass line that's locked right in tune with it. You have the guitars that are continuing a slight variation of the main chord progression, but then you have the harmonies that are up top that are just singing over everything else, that just adds that next layer to it that just I got goosebumps the first time I listened to that song. I'll say that with pride.
Plus, one of my favorite parts of it is that you guys trade off near the end there.
Oh, yeah.
You get your solo section, and then we come in and you hit.
Right.
I wish I knew pedals. You hit whatever you hit, and the bass just jumps into the forefront for that little solo bit in the air. Just really brings it in. It's one of my favorite parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan and I have been playing together for 4 years now, so we can just kind of look at each other, and it's like a two-headed monster.
Yeah,
at this point.
it
We can
really
just
is.
he can just see what I'm doing and just play over me, like harmonize
It's a
me.
positive feedback loop. Really.
It's kind of melding into like I said, like a two-headed monster. One of my buddies, my friend Shane, who was in a band called Murmur and another band called Guzzlemug, he sat in on one of our practices and he's like, these are like pop songs, because they are really short. The first ones that we wrote are like 3 minutes, and I'm like, I wasn't like offended by it, but I was like, I think now we need to start writing some like 9 and 10 minute songs, which we are doing. We are currently
We got one
trying to
on the
write
record.
yeah
Yeah.
longer material. with more parts and more complexity.
Just more variants, more prog, if you will.
Yeah.
These two happen to be two of the shortest of what we've written. Looking at the track list, most of them we've been playing live, so there's not too much secrecy in that. The one that's kind of we have two that are 5+ minutes long. One is nearing 10. That was your baby, and I'm very excited to see how those turn out after we finish in the studio. Shout out to Will at 1459 in Minneapolis.
All right, nice. So we kind of touched upon this a little bit earlier, but for each of you, like, who are some of your favorite people who play the instruments that you guys play?
Okay, I would say, we were talking about this yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago. In terms of what got me started, I think I mentioned the band before, Avenged Sevenfold, but the Rev, who unfortunately passed in 2019, 2009, 10-decade difference there, but God, it feels a lot sooner. Back when I was in high school, he has a very varied style of playing, from some parts that are just incredibly fast thrashy to some parts that are mixing with a lot of different influences, like the song Almost Easy that has almost a salsa feel to it for the verse. Beyond that, things like All That Remains, Jason, who just, again, blazing fast, intricate bits there, things of that nature. I think those are probably the two main just actual influences for the drummers themselves. Beyond that, just songs here and there, but I'd say those are probably the main two for me.
For me, I've been a huge Megadeth fan for a long time. I think it was the first heavy band that I started out with, like, Black Sabbath was probably the first metal band that I got into. And from there it was, Megadeth and Metallica, the stepping stone thrash metal bands. But Dave Mustaine, I love his guitar playing. I think I sometimes sort of mimic him a little bit in my solos, just like blazing fast, chromatic and pentatonic here and there. Maybe play a little bit more melodically than he does in terms of my rhythm. But yeah, he's just, I still love Dave Mustaine. Also, Chuck from Death, just the brutality, the speed, the melody, the in-between stuff. I love Scream, Bloody Gore, and Leprosy, those first two albums, but I also love Individual Thought Patterns. And that segues right into Andy LaRocque from King Diamond. I love his playing too. His lead playing, it's just so clean and smooth. I could never possibly, do what he does, but I do try to. I think about those melodic passages in the middle of the really fast solos that I try to sort of have singable parts in my solos. And I play more just leads than I do. I don't play that many solos on our record. There's, I think, 3 solos on the entire thing. So
I think so.
There's not that many. It's not that important to this band, really, I guess. But we do a lot of leads and harmonies, sort of like Jesper from In Flames. So there's always a harmony in there somewhere.
As far as me, since day one, it's always been Cliff Burton. The first couple of Metallica albums I was listening to, and I could just hear this thunder rumbling underneath everything, and I just really dove deep into his stuff. I thought it sounded great. And I can tell you the exact day when I realized that was going to be my main influence. Me and my dad, we went and saw Metallica for their World Wired tour in 2016. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was that year. We saw them at the U.S. Bank Stadium out in Minneapolis. And it was Robert Trujillo, their current bass player, playing, who's a phenomenal player. He was doing a cover of Anesthesia, Cliff's solo on the first record, Kill 'Em All. And this big light up sign, they had a bunch of those LED screens, this big image of Cliff playing at Live Day on the Green, their show in 1985, I think somewhere in California. Just that image played over as Rob played Cliff's solo, and I was watching it, and I don't know, something came over me, I just could not stop crying during that entire solo, and I just looked up and I said, getting choked up thinking about it now, but I just looked up and said, man, if you're up there, I don't care what it takes. I don't care where I end up, but I will do everything I can to just make you proud. To Cliff, just, you're the guy that got me into this. You're the reason that I play bass. So everything I do, I try to just live up to you and what you were able to achieve. So that's pretty cut and dry for me.
He's one of my favorite bass players as well.
I wouldn't say he's like the most technically proficient because like he was a pretty sloppy player. Like he definitely played very loosely, but he's incomparable. There never will be anyone like him, and there never was before him.
Yeah, and just like creatively and everything, I love that he kind of brings the bass just to the front of everything. It's right there. It's in your face.
Yeah, he's unapologetic. You knew he was there.
Yeah.
And I think my bandmates would agree that that is the case.
Right. Yeah, we're not going for the Injustice for All mix on our
Yeah,
album.
no,
Yeah.
I will not be Jason Newsted, who is also a fantastic bass player. I love his aggression and his energy, but it's still always Cliff for me.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess my next question here would be, what are you guys up to lately in terms of like playing shows, writing stuff?
Yeah, well, in terms of writing, actually, we are pretty happy to say that we are pretty far along in recording our very first album. We've played, I think, just a hair over a dozen shows, and we've already hit the studio for a full-length record. I think the end result's going to be about 45 minutes long. Rise, the single that we just played, will feature on that record, as well as Synthetic Misery, the other single that we've released. But we've got a couple of other sleepers on that album that we think people are going to really enjoy, and kind of like we were saying, our influences are all over the place, and you're really going to see that in the music that we have on this album. I would honestly describe it as just less so like a concentrated, like singular sound than just a compilation of where we've all come from as we coalesce it into what Monolith is, like as a creative force. So that's what we're up to as far as writing. And then as far as shows, Connor's got that.
In terms of shows, like he said, I think this last Friday we played at what was it, Farmstock?
Farmageddon.
Yep, but that show was number 13 for us, so kind of incredible how fast it's moving in terms of songs. Just basically every practice we end up jamming something new and going, oh wait, we can use that.
Yeah.
And that just goes from there. But in terms of the next show, you can see us over at the Wisco in Madison, Wisconsin this coming Friday, July 21st. We're going to be there with Jingleheimer, Zenith, and Sabotage. Doors are at 7. It is a 21-plus show, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, Sabotage, not to be confused with Sabaton.
Oh,
I wish they were there, but Sabotage will definitely do fine.
All right. Let's see here. So, do you have any good stories from your shows that you've done?
Oh man,
This past one was super interesting.
Yeah.
It's right near my hometown. It's in Kaukauna. I'm from Kimberly, right up in the middle of the northeast Wisconsin, I guess.
Nowhere.
And it was just in a cornfield. It was in a cornfield, and I expected it to just be a minimal setup, but it was a really well put together show. They had 2 stages, so they could speed load one band loading while the other one played, and just 30 bands at this thing, and it was a lot of fun. We've had we keep introducing new tech into our we got some techies in our band, so we always have we have
that we can go over technical difficulties. Minimum 1 per show, but we're getting there.
Early on we had problems with fog machines. We had we had the fog machine that just wouldn't stop spewing fog. Rockstar Saloon in West Dallas. You couldn't see the band from
our incredible vocalist decided in his infinite wisdom to point that directly back at me that show so it would bounce off the drum head, and it got so bad. I feel like the way that it worked was that it was like storing the amount of times he tapped it while I was still warming up, and so it went for like 12 cycles straight. I could not see a half a foot in front of my face, my hand held up. I was just desperately playing from, okay, where did I put the kit this time? Because this was like show 4 or 5, something?
I think it was
earlier
5,
on.
maybe.
So, I mean, I've been adjusting my kit as we play, trying to add more stuff. And I was, occasionally I just hit nothing and be like, oh, amazing.
I looked out into the crowd and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anyone. No one could see me.
The musical cloud.
Yeah, the nice thing is it reduces anxiety because no one can see you.
Are they still there? Is this working? Am I real?
No, I don't know any of these.
So then we had a couple of Dylan's friends were like, you guys, that's excessive. You're using too much fog at the show.
No, really. We were going to do that every time up until they told us.
See what you got to do. What you got to do is you got to have just a buttload of like fog. Nobody can see the band while they're playing the whole time, and then at some point you get different people playing all the different instruments. The band that was up there originally have completely left. Then at the end of the show, all the fog clears, and it's like, wait, who are these people?
Right? Yeah.
That's how you do a set change out quickly.
Yes.
Is you do that, you
Right.
have a backing track so that the last 3 songs are backed. And at some point, it's just another band starts playing, and the entire setup's different.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
One thing that I still chuckle about to this day, this was, I want to say one of our earlier shows. We've had like 13 shows, so it was like one of the last 4 we had. We were playing at Rockstar, which is a pretty intimate little bar in West Dallas.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Ryan was at the show. I think he was away with another commitment at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Aiden and I were pulling duty on vocals, and we were doing one of the covers that we absolutely love to play, Blackened by Metallica.
Yeah.
With bass this time, I'm happy to say.
Oh, yeah.
At least for most of the song, because we got through the first section, which everybody knows the first section. Then we got into the slower portion where it's halftime feel. And I was, channeling my inner Jason, and I had my pick, and I was just absolutely muscling my low E string to the point where it actually fully unraveled and snapped in the middle of the song. Where I was just hitting it, it was thundering through, and then all of a sudden it just went, and there was like no low end, and I felt no tension. I looked down, and my string was down by my foot, and I was like,
oh,
well, that's that. But I was like, the song's still going on. I have vocals I need to do, so I just hopped up the octave and just kept playing through the song. It didn't sound as full, but I was still hitting the right notes. So I was like, you know what? This is gonna work.
More bass than on the original still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like when you're tripping over the bar, it's not that hard to clear it. So we finished up that song. I made it work somehow, and then as soon as we finished, I was like, hey, so who's got a fresh bass with nice strings that I could possibly borrow? And thank God, the bass player from Knifeback, I can never remember his dang name, but he's
Matt.
Matt.
Yeah.
Shout out, Matt.
I would just call him Hat Guy because he's always wearing a hat backwards. Shout
out Hat Guy.
Yeah,
Hat
Matt
Guy.
from Knifeback, he was an absolute lad. Really love him. Super down to earth guy. Immediately, he just hopped back into his car, grabbed his bass, came in with it. He's like, "Here you go. It's an A, drop A." And I was like, "All right, give me like 8 seconds." So I tuned it down because we play in D standard, so I tuned it to A standard. It was a 5-string, and I'm really used to 4-strings, so I was not used to the string difference at all. So my fingers were kind of tripping over it. And I was like, we'll make this work. And then we proceeded to play Old Magic, which is one of the, for bass at least, I made it a super intricate part. Tried to really channel my inner like Steve DiGiorgio, just flying all over the fretboard.
Another one of my favorite bass players.
Dude, Steve, he's what's up. He's the man.
Oh yeah.
But we played this song, and this is a song that had like effects on, so I was stomping on my pedals too, and I was playing a bass I didn't know. So it was just a goofy experience.
Yeah.
And then we ended this set like after that song or one afterwards, and I just gave back Matt's bass, and he was like, "Dude, how'd you do that?" I was like, "You figure," like referring to the E string that I broke. I was like, I don't know, man. Things just happen.
Well, the second half of Blackened probably sounded more like the record because there was
Yeah.
no bass on it.
I was in the guitar register, yeah. But
you did the Monolith version for half.
Yep,
And then you did the new stud version.
it's a true homage to one of my boys.
Beyond that, also at Rockstar, when my drum kit spontaneously took itself apart partially.
Oh yeah, no, it just fell apart.
Mid-show, unfortunately, in the rush to get on stage, because for whatever reason, I think a band had either gone a bit long or whatever, and we had to get going starting right away. I apparently did not fully tighten one of the lugs on that was holding up one of my toms, and so I'm playing, and you've been to quite a few shows, and I generally tend to go all over the kit, and so when I realize I'm missing something, and I look, and all of a sudden I realize it's just off to the side, barely hanging on, and I'm frantically. We have Adams, Dylan Adams, who's a lovely friend of mine from a long time ago. He moved up here as well later on, and he helps out with the show, and I was desperately trying to signal to him to help out, like just glancing and pointing, and he, God bless him, was just like, yeah! It's like, he's clearly just trying to hype. I'm just going to hype him right back. And the song ended, and I just desperately put that right back together as fast as I could. But thankfully, the kit's a bit more put together now, and a bit closer to an influence I forgot somehow. Alex Bent of Trivium got some more of the splashes in the center and the double ride and all that. So triple check all those lugs now before every show. It hasn't happened yet again.
And not a lot of people know this, but the first 2 drummers we had before Connor, the first one died in a bizarre gardening accident. And the second one, during the middle of our set, there was just a flash of green light.
Oh.
And he was gone. Okay. There's nothing but a little green glob left on the drum seat.
Half of a stick. Scores. I don't know. Craziest thing.
So we're just
Make a
happy that-
documentary about it.
Just make sure your Stonehenge is fully to scale.
Yeah, it's made of monolith, so there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
If you haven't seen Spinal Tap, you're doing yourself a disservice, especially if you like this whole niche industry of metal and rock and all that. Absolutely check it out. Amazing mockumentary.
Oh yeah, that segues into another question. I was gonna have this further down, but you know what? Since we're on the topic,
Yeah, we
like,
ball.
what are some of your guys' like favorite movies, books,
Ooh.
video games, stuff like that?
Totally. I think Andy would probably agree with me on this one. As far as just media franchises, because this one hits all the boxes. Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
J.R.R.
There you go.
Tolkien is absolutely, God, as a man who's like an absolute lover of literature, a budding philologist, Tolkien,
Yeah.
he's the cat's pajamas. Lord of the Rings is just single-handedly one of the best modern stories ever told, and while sometimes modern media doesn't always capture it, the original movie trilogy, I grew up on that. I watched it. I would watch it with my dad every single year religiously. Like every now and then, we both look at each other and be like, "Hey, I'm getting
It's
a
time.
feeling it's time."
Yeah.
I think we need to watch all extended editions in
Obviously.
one day, and
Yep.
every year, like clockwork, it would just happen. So.
Well, that's actually how I gained his trust when
He
he
gave
the
him a
age
ring.
gap- No, I
and,
brought him over to my apartment, and he said the moment he began to trust me is because I had a giant poster of Bag End on my
Yeah.
wall.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and I talked about Elder Scrolls because I think all of us like Elder Scrolls.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And our drummer here grew up right near where Bethesda Studios was.
That is
yeah.
actually factual, yes. There's ZeniMax, which is the parent
that's-
company,
oh,
is
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Through a series of strange coincidences, at one point, I ended up inside the studio with a somewhat surprise tour due to one of their artists happening to need car work where I worked. I dropped him off at his job, and as we pulled up, I went, "I'm sorry, is this not Bethesda?" He's like, "Yeah, I worked there." I was like, "Oh, do you want to see inside?" Please.
Nice.
And then he asked you to take the ring to Joffrey and Wayne and Priory.
Speaking of rings, happened to be wearing the Lord of the Rings ring that I got recently from my SO, and so just a fun little coincidence.
Yeah, we're all just huge
We're all
nerds. Huge
massive
nerds.
nerds.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have a song, Led Zeppelin style, about Lord of the Rings at some point.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
I have no doubt.
It's just Lord of the Rings. It's like one of the most metal stories
Yes,
ever
100%.
created. Like,
Yeah.
and you just look at like the influence that it's had over, like metal and rock, and there's so many bands that.
Oh, absolutely.
They
It's the pinnacle of fantasy storytelling in
Yeah,
the modern day. And you
yeah.
see like bands like Man of War, Iron Maiden, even with some of their influences.
Yeah.
To an extent, the Norwegian black metal community, but we're not going to get into that too much.
Yeah.
There's just the influences are all over the place. You can really see it because
Right.
it's just an amazing story. There's so much inspiration to pull from in metal. Like heavy metal at its foundation, outside of Sabbath, was meant to be very empowering, very inspiring. Like you
Yeah.
listen to Judas Priest, you listen to Iron Maiden, you listen to all those early guys, like the new wave. Like it was all about like getting energetic. And frankly, the last ride of the Rohirrim and Frodo throwing the ring into the mountain,
Yeah.
that's pretty uplifting. That makes you want to go out and like do something, go out and conquer the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally agree.
Even if the last throw was a bit accidental.
Listen,
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of that, there's so many good things. And one of my more nerdy than even these two influences or things that I enjoy would be I read a lot of manga, watch a lot of anime. Berserk,
Yeah.
for example, is a massively popular, influential series. The band Brand of Sacrifice, who has been coming up pretty fast in the kind of the death metal industry, is pretty. I mean, that is from their series. Most of their songs are about it.
Right.
Things of that nature, and yeah, just reading whenever I can. Lord of the Rings, all that fun stuff, and
sure.
yeah, I keep up with all the Marvels still here and there, just because that's been since I was a teenager, and at this point, it's more just next one's out, time to watch. But pretty much all of those. Anything for you?
I was just gonna say if Elrond would have pushed Isildur into the fire, this band wouldn't even
Isildur.
exist.
that would have saved so much
It
time.
would have been so much just right at the beginning. Throw it into the fire. No. Okay. Push. And we're good.
Yeah.
What do we do now?
This might be. Some of you might disagree, but I think Tom Bombadil is pretty metal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
100%.
only they put him in the actual
Yes.
film.
Well, the
Strangest Man.
the Soviet version of Lord of the Rings that was released like way back in the day, they had Tom Bombadil in there, but his jacket was red instead of blue. It's like
That's
like
wrong.
What is even the point? Though?
yeah, it's
Because Soviet Russia,
Tom
they were red.
Bombadil is a merry fellow. Bright blue his jacket is, and his boots are yellow. Like, how do you
Thank
get
you.
this wrong?
Thank you.
Yes.
Someone who gets it.
Yes.
Oh, that would have been an interesting ad, but there's a lot of stuff in those books.
Does he add a whole lot to the overall plot? Not
No.
really.
Does he add a lot of mysteries that never get solved? Yes.
Yeah.
But you know what?
He's cool.
His boots are yellow.
His
There we
boots are
go.
yellow.
That's enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving along. Let's see here. So what advice would you have for fellow musicians just kind of getting their start?
Get together and start jamming. Honestly, that was the big thing. I've wanted to be in a band for years and kept on, I had like a profile on Band Mix for ages and would put up, covers and things like that. And I mean, certainly that I have my own perspective, but it seems like the fastest thing to get started is just chat with people around you, put up an ad, start playing with people. The industry, especially in a niche category like metal, is so intertwined, just all together. You're gonna start meeting people. You're gonna meet people that might, that you might want to play with. Also, it's just you got to start doing it versus just waiting for it to show up.
Yeah, I would agree. I think another piece of advice that I would try to add to that is just commit. If you're gonna commit to it, commit fully. Obviously, like I'm a huge believer that you give 100% and you will absolutely reap what you sow.
Yep.
And really, that being said, take the time to enjoy the creative process. Like, if this is something you really want to do, you understand the odds are stacked against you, and that it's going to be a difficult road. But that doesn't mean that you should enjoy it any less because of how determined you are to make it succeed. Like, there is really something close to religious experience of being able to take the creative energy of 4 individuals or however many individuals there may be in the room and combine that together into something that is infinitely greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Like, there's just nothing comparable to that. And if you focus on that and you really try to make that your goal, not necessarily to, be Aerosmith, be the Beatles, be this next huge, massive band, but to just be able to make your stamp on this world, make your stamp on this reality and say, I exist. This is my definitive statement that I was here. And you're able to share that with someone else. Like, no one can take that away from you. Absolutely no one. No thing could, ever.
And you also have to just like each other to be in a band with each other because you're going to spend so much time with each other. Like, we haven't gone on tour
It
or
helps.
anything yet, but it certainly helps if you're friends and you can get along and be able to spend, 48 hours eating Chinese food and drinking Mountain Dew in the studio with each other.
Right.
That was fun. But yeah, just
You learn a lot about each other in the
pretty
studio.
much. It doesn't always have to be the goal of like, I want to sell out stadiums and I want to, be on the cover of magazines and all that. My goal right now and on a personal level is just I want to write music with some good friends and get enough songs together to put something out there. And if people want to come and watch that and headbang a bit, well, that's just going to be a good time.
Yeah.
I do plan to tour Europe, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. My goal was to just put out an album, and we are closing in on that
Yes,
being
sir.
done.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
I've been on
speedrunning
albums
that.
before, but this one is going to be, it's professionally made. It's going to be,
It's legit.
it's going to be a banger. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
The little previews we've gotten so far have been delightful for
Yes.
the mixing and all that. We're very excited. We're hoping, if anyone is curious, later this year is as tight as we could say right now since we're still working on the initial recordings, but should be, with any luck, sometime this year. And I think we're basically going for, in terms of title at least, same as the single. I think that's already pretty much
I think Synthetic
set.
Misery is the working album.
Yeah,
though,
so at the moment it'll be Synthetic Misery later this year, and that will drop pretty much anywhere you can find it, and CDs, and if luck goes well enough and people are interested, maybe some vinyls here and there.
The market determines.
Pretty much.
Yeah. We had that all. We all kind of just get excited about thinking about our music being on vinyl, but we'll see.
We'll at least get one made each.
Yeah.
It's tricky getting stuff put out on vinyl these days.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of the burden of this industry now falls upon the creator, who already has, I wouldn't say the hardest task of all, but definitely the most unique task.
Yeah.
And then they have to do everything else on top of it. It's difficult to juggle, but as I've said before, we ball.
Yeah, we've all kind of taken over different roles that kind of traditionally you'd be aiming to have, like management or a team or a label doing, so that we're not too pressed on, finding a label and all that. We have our sound guy. We got social coordinator. I tend to handle just the back end stuff, emails and working out things of that nature and finances.
And Ryan's really funny.
Ryan makes merch.
Yes.
That is true. Yeah, he is the merch maker.
His project forward.
Ryan's kind of the fire under our butts as well.
That as well, and just he has a good deal of experience playing with quite a few bands, and has toured quite a lot of the country at this point, which is invaluable experience to have in any of these kind of situations. So, where we might have a generalized goal, he has that extra experience to kind of focus that in a way that we can make the best use of our energy.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in this group really slacks or anything like that, and that's another thing. Another piece of advice is be willing to work together. Make sure that everybody's pulling their weight. Make sure everybody has, if you don't necessarily need to have the same vision, but make sure you're all at least meeting each other in the same field as far as drive and determination.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, the cracks will quickly show.
Sure.
Can't have anyone just hanging on the couch and just, sounds fun. Y'all gotta have input.
Yeah.
Which I have not seen be a problem yet for a single song. I don't think we have a single song on this album that every single person pretty equally contributed to.
If anything, we have too much input in this band. Someone has to go.
Who was your favorite guitarist again?
Dave Mustaine.
It doesn't show.
So that kind of brings me up to this is a question that I had for like another interview that I did, but let's say you're on tour, your vehicle breaks down, and it's like a Donner Party situation. Who's getting eaten?
Well,
our drummer here has the most meat.
For those who, I assume this might be on YouTube at some point, I am 6'6" and a very large man, and the entirety of the room just swiveled. You can have me if you can catch me. I am sprinting away from the van until I see AAA on the way.
Listen, I love you, but from purely practicality.
No, I get it. And your sacrifice will be remembered.
Exactly.
If you can catch me.
Gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, Ryan wouldn't even be enough to feed the three of us, I don't think.
No.
Ryan's...
He's a chicken wing.
Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't listen to this. I really hope he doesn't listen to this.
He is going to be listening immediately. He's actively writing down each infraction
as he's eating protein powder.
Trying to bulk.
Oh man. All right, let's see here.
That was a good question.
That one got me thinking.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time.
You two just.
So this is a good one here. Is if any of you ever find yourself in a creative slump, like what are some good ways that you can sort of get out of that and back into business, kind of?
Listen to new music and jam. Certainly, we have had a couple songs where we're working on it and we're just kind of stuck on a section. Like, how are we going to make this transition? This part feels repetitive, or we need something new there. And generally, rather than just sit there and try to force anything, which wouldn't feel natural, we go off. We, as we all do, listen to music constantly. Do that, just jam a bit, come back, and we have yet to have a situation after, a session or two like that where we don't go, oh, yeah, I had this idea. Let's give it a shot here. And that's how so far it's proceeded. We haven't had anything too solid block-wise. Yet, I would say.
No.
Fairly early.
Yeah, definitely just listening to new music. I'm focusing right now on listening to material that's come out in 2023. One band I would like to mention, they're called Majesties. They're just, it's kind of almost sounding like In Flames, Jester Race.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've been listening to it on repeat, and it's making me want to play more melodically and more it just makes me want to write more melodic death metal. It's just like putting a fire under me as we speak. So that or reading sci-fi for me. I don't know. It just gives me ideas for new
totally
content. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same for me. I like whenever I get in a creative slump. Two things that really help me. One, funnily enough, actually, is just jamming with other people.
Yeah.
Like I've really noticed that the quick, not to toot anybody's horn, but the quickest way for me to get out of my own creative rut is to literally just get in a room with Andy and just start playing music with him, just watching what he does. I'm like, okay, so that like, because I'll hear what he does, and we've been playing together for years. We've seen so much of each other and played together so much that it's like whatever he does, like my brain just like something just switches on, and I'm just like, how can I work around that? How can I work with that? And then playing with other people, I get that same sort of effect, like playing with new groups. Just being in that live setting, just sort of like seat of your pants, like how can I make this work out? A lot of improvisational thinking.
Yeah.
And also watching a lot of like fantasy, sci-fi stuff like that can also sort of galvanize me into getting new creative ideas.
All right.
Just to jump off of what he was mentioning in terms of newer music listening to, since it's an interesting topic, I'd say check out the Zenith Passage. Their newest drop, Algorithmic Salvation, has been interesting. I've been listening to that and trying to get some more. They have some interesting techniques that the drummer does there, interesting sounds that went with it, and beyond that, I'd say anything from you that you've been listening to lately?
No, I've just been rocking the Bee Gees 24/7.
That is
nice.
Sleep Token for kind of a genre-less or multi-genre sound has been really interesting to hear lately. So
yeah,
just
I like
the more diverse you listen, the more you can take in and kind of spread your influences out.
Yeah, I get stuck in a feedback loop sometimes of just listening to the same 80s and 90s metal that I've always listened to, and I get too comfortable. When I listen to new music, it definitely inspires me to just come up with some new ideas.
Yeah.
I'm like really trying to... I've been like just watching YouTube videos on reviews of 2023 metal and trying to stay more up to date with...
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good stuff coming out right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
COVID seemed like there was obviously just a lull period, but like now there's just... People are excited about new music and seeing live,
being channeled into the new music. I agree.
A lot of pressure in terms of creativity and industry kind of starting to release now with people are feeling more comfortable going out to these shows, and people that have been kind of writing in their basements for ages trying to avoid getting sick finally got to get back together and start putting stuff out. And that's I feel like if they have a chart of albums released per year that you checked out, there's probably going to be a pretty big jump these last year or two.
I would expect,
yeah. All right, so this is kind of I think a pretty interesting one. This is a kind of a made-up scenario. So let's say you're all trapped in an elevator, and the emergency phone thing there isn't working. You've got no cell phone reception. All you have is the three of you, a rubber band, a DVD copy of Turner and Hooch, and a solid brick made of Charlie Sheen's dried snot. How are you going to MacGyver your way out of that situation?
I'm going to take the nerdy approach and note that most elevators, even above their lights, have standard hatches, and we're some tall boys. If there's a lock on that thing, that brick is getting used quickly, and we are just going to beat our way out of the top hatch, find one of those doors, and just wrench that thing open, and then enjoy MacGyver.
All right.
On the local DVD player.
I'm using the brick to knock Connor out, and then I'm going to eat his body.
I feel this theme is going to occur.
We're just going straight to cannibalism.
It's like, look, I had a meal like 20 minutes ago, but who knows how long this is going to last, so I'm...
Nice.
I'd probably just watch Turner and Hooch. I like Tom Hanks.
Nice. All right, let's see here. What was the worst idea you ever had as a child?
I have one on load. In my infinite wisdom as a child, I had the fever one time, and I was something like, I don't know, between 4 to 7, God knows, kid. But I could reach the door handle of the house, and it was the largest snow in terms of depth that we'd had in Maryland for a long time. Mm-hmm. And child brain, parents said, I'm sick. My temperature is too high.
Oh, no.
Snow is very cold. Therefore, I ran outside in my underwear and jumped into the snow and laid there until I was found about 20 minutes later. I want to say I was like between 7 and 9, actually, because I could actually get out of the house. And amazingly, the fever broke. And for years, I was justified in my horrible thinking of that. It's like, Mom, clearly it works. My fever went away.
The thought process is flawless, but
I am hot, snow, cold. Very simple math.
What about you, Andy?
In first grade, I crapped my pants, and I just went back. I went to the bathroom, and then I just decided to go back to class and just act like nothing happened.
Wait, did you clean up anything, or did you just go, well, I'm living with this?
I tried, but then I eventually conceded and had my dad pick me up. But the worst idea was to go back to class and just hope that no one would notice. Of course, it backfired.
Oh, no.
There was no build-up to that. You just went like, you had. Well, this one time.
You just went straight to the point there.
How about you, bud? How about you?
I don't know.
What shameful secret will you unveil?
Oh boy, I got a couple.
Crapping?
No, I don't think I ever crapped my pants. Well, that's a lie, but not.
How far back we looking?
I mean, like, everybody you've ever met has crapped their pants.
Right, yeah, right.
I mean, when you're
Nothing
a baby.
to be ashamed of.
I do it competitively. That's the only thing. But
Well, I don't do it recreationally, only in competition.
Yeah, I shit my pants ranked. But as far as the most embarrassing memory, so here's the thing. I still think I'm in the right, so I don't view this as embarrassing, but it's definitely a bit dicey. So I want to say I think I was in kindergarten. No, I had to have been in preschool, so I was like 4 years old. And I was in an early learning program, and we were in like a gym class. And for whatever reason, I just did not like who the gym teacher was. Right? Like I was not vibing with her. Something's going on with with the boys over here. Connor's cracking up a storm. He's turning purple.
Let him finish his story, Connor.
So I did not like my gym teacher. Right? Like my gut instinct. I was like a mafia guy. Like I didn't trust her. I didn't like it. So I was not feeling the vibes. And she was trying to like pat me on the shoulder or something, like some sort of like gentle, nurturing sort of gesture, right? But she put her hands on me, and like my caveman came out, and I was just like, no touchy. So I like smacked her hand away, just full on like whap. And I thought I was on the right because I was like, she's touching me. I don't want that. And like I don't feel like that was a big deal. I was 4 years old at the time, so it wasn't as articulate. I thought it was just no touch. And I went to daycare later that day, and my dad picked me up, and I could just tell on his face I was like, he's upset about something. And he was helping me tie my shoe because I was 4 I say I was 4 years old, but I was an idiot. I didn't really know how to tie my shoes.
I was of the non-shoe tying age.
I was just bad at it. I still wore laces.
Not ranked?
Yeah, that was not ranked for that.
Casual.
And my dad was tying my shoe very aggressively, and he was like, you were in deep, deep trouble. And, 4-year-old pea brain, object permanence had not developed yet. So I completely forgotten that I had smacked my teacher earlier that day. And I was just like, what did I do wrong? And then they, talked to me about it later that night. And I was like, well, she touched me. I didn't like it. So I smacked her. And my parents were like, okay, we appreciate that, but you can't hit your teacher. And I was like, why not? And,
and that's when the lack of trust of the establishment developed, leading to where we are today.
That probably is the direct link, yeah. Yep.
And now he carries a Molotov everywhere he goes, pre-lit in his bag.
Yes.
Just in case.
Stay strapped.
Yeah. Nice. All right, so this next question, this is another kind of scenario thing, is... So let's say Andy is armed with a very large wooden spoon, and he's got access to like one of those little razor scooters. So, do the two of you, Dylan and Connor, do you think you can take him down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think we would both just dogpile him.
I was thinking I'd just chuck you at him.
Yeah.
just grab you by the ankles and start spin up and just
spinning me. 100%.
Your sacrifice will be remembered.
I've seen Andy with a toy lightsaber, and that's pretty intimidating. So with like a wooden spoon, which is gonna have a lot more of like a smack to it, like a little one of those.
Yeah.
He might give me a good fight.
Although Connor's got a electric unicycle.
Yes, he
it's
does.
in my car right
Like
now.
it is outrun you.
So
If it was on that thing, I don't think anyone
actively
would be
in
able
the
to
car
catch
out
me.
there.
Yeah,
It
how
goes
much
25 miles
prep
an hour.
time do we have?
30.
30 miles an hour. 30 mph.
If It was just me kind of like basically in our birthday suits. I'd say it's pretty even.
More
match.
fun for everybody.
All right. So, my final question here before we wrap up is pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Oh, hell yeah. All the time. I get it on every pizza I order.
I-
It's pepperoni, jalapeno, pineapple.
I personally prefer a savory pizza. If I was going for a sweet pizza, I might try it, but if I'm ever in the mood for pizza, it's savory. So I can say that I have not given it a chance yet, so to speak. I've taken it off, and it's not my thing personally.
Graham, you might be directly responsible for the breaking up of this band. I hate pineapple on pizza. I absolutely hate it.
So we got the whole spectrum here. We have love, I may get a shot later, and I will commit crimes if you offer me this.
There you
Yes.
go. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up all the questions that we have. But yeah, thank you for your time and coming on the show. It's a blast. And,
Yeah, thanks for
For
having
sure.
us.
Thank you, man.
This is a hoot.
All right. So we're gonna close things out with Synthetic Misery.
Yeah.